Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Supporters of Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro have taken to the streets of Sao Paulo to call for an end to coronavirus restrictions, even as Brazil passes 50,000 coronavirus deaths. Demonstrators draped in Brazilian flags gathered in one of Sao Paulo's main avenues to show support for Bolsonaro, who has criticised social distancing during the pandemic, saying that it is a more dangerous measure than the virus itself. Brazil has reported the second highest number of COVID-19 deaths in the world, behind only the United States. Meanwhile, South Korea has announced that it is going through a second wave of coronavirus after a national holiday weekend in May. The outbreak has mainly occurred in the Greater Seoul area, which had previously seen very few cases. In the Chinese capital Beijing, an inflatable testing laboratory has been set up to increase the city's coronavirus testing capacity after authorities reported 18 newly confirmed cases on Sunday. With its modular layout, the laboratory can be easily set up and disassembled anywhere there's a need. Meanwhile, Europe has gradually emerged from lockdown, with Spain reopening its borders and lifting its state of emergency, while France celebrated its annual music festival and reopened its cinemas. The United States and Russia have begun talks on their major nuclear weapons agreement in Vienna, amid growing tensions over whether they see any value in arms control at all. US President Donald Trump has insisted that China should be involved in the talks on the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty that caps US and Russian nuclear warheads. China has shown no signs of any interest in joining. The new START treaty, which was agreed in 2010, expires in February 2021, leaving little time to renew a complex deal or to negotiate a new treaty involving China. In the UK, tributes to 3 victims who were stabbed in Reading have been paid as the town comes to terms with what happened on Saturday evening when an attacker randomly stabbed people in a park. A minute's silence was held in Reading on Monday morning. More than 100 students gathered to hold a silence at the school where the first identified victim, James Furlong, worked as a teacher. A second victim, named by their family in the US, has been identified as Joe Ritchie Bennett. A 25-year-old Libyan national is in custody on suspicion of murder, and Home Secretary Priti Patel has said he was acting alone. A New York police officer has been suspended after an apparent chokehold incident was caught on video.
Stop choking him!
This video shows many officers restraining the man on his stomach, while one officer wraps his arms around the man's neck. The New York Police Department banned the use of chokeholds in 1993. The death of George Floyd, after a police officer knelt on his neck while detaining him in Minneapolis on May the 25th, has put police tactics and methods under the spotlight once again. Australia's High Court has said that a former judge sexually harassed 6 female members of staff. Dyson Hayden is one of Australia's most powerful figures to face such accusations amid a global reset in workplace gender relations. The court's statement did not give details of the incidents under scrutiny, but said it was told of allegations of sexual harassment against a former justice in 2019 and immediately ordered an independent investigation. Over 200 migrants rescued from sinking boats in the Mediterranean by the German NGO Sea-Watch 3 have arrived at a Sicilian port for medical checks before a precautionary quarantine. Of the 211 people on board, mainly from Africa, 20 are women and 62 are minors, including a few months-old baby. For years, Italy was the primary route into Europe for hundreds of thousands of asylum seekers and other irregular migrants. But after a crackdown in Libya against smugglers and port closures due to coronavirus, the numbers of people attempting to cross the Mediterranean have fallen sharply. Minibus taxi drivers in South Africa have organised a strike to demand more financial support from the government. Since the coronavirus shutdown began, taxis have been operating at only 70% capacity under strict social distancing rules, which has caused thin margins in an industry dependent on maximum passenger loads at low fares. Dozens of taxis blocked busy roads in Johannesburg and Pretoria, confronting police and leaving hundreds unable to make it to work. And finally, after months of taking classes online due to lockdown restrictions, some yoga enthusiasts in the Canadian city of Toronto have begun practicing their poses in individual clear geodesic domes. The event was launched on the International Day of Yoga and will last almost a month. The 50 domes have built-in heating regulation to create a similar atmosphere as a hot yoga studio. They are also cleaned and disinfected after every use to prevent the spread of COVID-19. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.